Lights,
camera,
Maction. Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of $1 Million Media. I am your host, Max Kellerhals, and with me today I have...
Josh Nicholson.
Returning.
For the millionth time.
Yes. And today we are going to be talking about...
The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Starring...
Nicolas fucking Cage!
Yes. Yeah, so we're just going to basically give you guys a brief synopsis of the film, and then we're going to talk about what we liked and possibly didn't like about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to kick off the synopsis, or do you want me to?
Sure. So, I'm going to briefly summarize, for those of you who haven't been connected with Hollywood, Nick Cage and why it rules that he's in this movie. Because it's important that you understand, Nick Cage is an actor who has done some shit in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Dude has made some absolutely trash movies. Willys Wonderland. What was that, Nick? Come on.
I liked that movie.
But
I found that to be really fun.
But it's fun, but it's not good. You know what I mean?
No, it's not. But I like the character that he played.
Yeah, and there was like Mom and Dad. That's a movie that I love that probably isn't good by any conventional standard. I hated
that movie.
But Nick Cage has done some wild shit, and
some good stuff,
and some incredible stuff. He was in Mandy, which Max really likes. He was in Pig last year, which was my favorite movie of last year. I think that is a movie that everyone should watch. Pig was incredible. Mm-hmm. And so, with all of these ups and downs, we come to a late-stage career movie for Nick Cage, which is this movie, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which is about Nick Cage at the late stages of his career. Yep,
it's Nick Cage playing Nick Cage.
Mm-hmm. And if you think that that's meta, wait until you get into the rest of the movie, because, oh lord. But basically, he gets contracted to go to a birthday party for this guy named Javi, played by Pedro Pascal, which we'll talk about. And then he gets contacted by the CIA in the form of two agents, played by Tiffany Haddish and Ike Barinholtz, who tell him that Javi is actually the leader of an arms cartel, and so Nicolas Cage gets swept up into a world of espionage. Mm-hmm. But that's only what the movie's about on its surface. It's about a lot more than that.
Yeah. The one thing I really liked about this movie is the meta-ness of it.
Oh, 100%. You will not find a movie that is more committed to, like, calling itself on things.
Oh, yeah. It literally calls itself out on the script itself, the story that it's being told, the people that are in it.
Mm-hmm. There's a particular standout moment where two characters are literally like, we should go and do the third act.
Yeah, and we should have it here because it means a lot to us.
Exactly. They literally have to be like, wait, we shouldn't do the third act here. We should do it in this place. Which is, that's the level of movie we're working with. This is a movie that is very aware of what it is, but not in like a Deadpool talking to the audience way. Mm-hmm. More of a like, we're gonna poke fun at the medium that we're using way.
It's also a movie where if you're not in on the joke, you're not gonna have fun. If you just wanted to see like an average movie and not specifically going out to see Nick Cage playing Nick Cage and this weird like scenario that he's put himself into, then you won't have fun. If you're like just seeing this as like a movie about an actor, any actor going down like a bad path, it's probably not what you're looking for, but I think it would still be a lot of fun because it does talk a lot about how artists kind of become very so full of themselves at a point.
That is true. And
that it kind of like pushes away. He starts to push away family. He starts to beg on his knees to get certain roles.
Yeah, and there's a particular thing that this movie does that I think is very smart in contrasting how it deals with art. So, like, there's a plot point early on about Nick Cage kind of being obsessed with this movie, this German movie. What's it called again?
The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which I have seen, and it's...
I have not watched that, but it's an early example of the screenwriters using shorthand to be like, this is Nick Cage talking about a movie that no one cares about, even if it's brilliant. Mm-hmm. And then the movie that everyone rallies around, the movie that is shown as the universal bringer together of people, is Paddington 2.
Yeah, which I found really funny because that was the thing on Twitter for so long about how Paddington 2 is like still the #1 rated film on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
For a very long time. So it was like, I understood why they chose it, but that's only a thing if like you're a film fan. Yeah. You would get the reason why, because it's like, oh yeah, Paddington 2 is like universally loved.
Yes. And I love that because it's an artist's because, I mean, the screenwriter and director are artists as much as this is Cage's movie. It is very much their movie as well.
Oh yeah. I think my favorite thing is the writing is really well written, and the direction is really sleek for a movie that honestly, the premise of it alone got me in the theater. I was really impressed by how well this was directed. This was like shot. They had a really good director of photography. Also, it takes place in Spain on the ocean, and it's just
it is beautiful. And on my side of the things, I expected this movie to be so dumb, and yet the writing is fiercely intelligent. It is like at points there are bits where I'm like, this feels like things may be going over my head. Like specifically the parts where they talk about the movie that they're writing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, the writing can be simultaneously very simple and funny, while at the same time being extremely smart.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Yeah. Like, it varies between, like, let's come up with, like, a genuinely clever thing that, like, comes back into the plot.
Yes.
Or it's, like...
let's make Nick Cage make out with himself in a restaurant.
Or, like, a simple joke that did make me laugh, but I don't think was, like, in the script with that Tiffany Haddish says.
Oh, yes. Yes, there are moments in this movie where you can tell either the actors were allowed to improv very funny jokes, or the screenwriter was just writing some really, like, strong shit. And it's wild because, again, this is the kind of thing written by someone who likes writing. Right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's definitely like a writer's movie because it's poking fun. It's almost like a writer's room movie where it's just like they come up with this really clever idea, but once their cleverness stops, they call themselves out on how dumb they actually are.
It's really hard to explain without like fully summarizing the movie to explain certain jokes.
Yeah, but we're not.
We're not going to do that, yeah.
I guess what we can say is, other things that we liked is I really like the chemistry that Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal had, because...
both of whom killed it in those roles.
Yeah. Like, Nicolas Cage, I mean, he's playing Nicolas Cage, but he's playing a version of himself that is more reflective, I guess you should say.
Yeah, it's something along those lines. It's definitely Nick Cage playing a different version of himself. There was acting talent required. Dude wasn't just, like, goofing around on set as himself.
Oh, he always takes himself very seriously, though.
Yeah, he takes everything he does seriously, which is why he's one of the best actors that I can think of. Because regardless of how stupid or smart the movie is, Nick Cage will give 100% to it.
Oh, yeah. Even to this.
Yeah, and it's wild because in the movie they do address this. Like, it's a pretty significant plot point in the movie that he's kind of obsessed with his work. And it's like the things that make him such a fascinating actor to watch kind of have detriments on this character.
Yeah, oh yeah, like all the crazy, like, freak out moments that he has, genuinely, like, there's a reason behind that, and it shows, like, it shows, like, a mental toll that is on him, where it's a side of him that he doesn't really like.
Yeah, and, I mean...
it's something that pushes him to constantly be working, but by constantly working, he is pushing away his family.
Yeah.
Which, I will say, even though I like the family in this movie, don't get misconstrued that this is not actually his real family.
Yeah.
It is because he has 2 sons in real life, and in the movie he has a daughter.
Right.
And also I think he is divorced in real life and has
a
girlfriend at the moment. I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time on drama, but I just want to make it clear that it's not 100% actually Nick Cage.
Right.
Like, they mostly just do the actor Nick Cage, not the real person.
Yeah.
Which if you know Nick Cage, a lot of him is the actor Nick Cage, where he's putting on this face, and they're just doing something different for his real version.
Yeah.
However,
the other thing I want to say cannot express how fantastic Pedro Pascal was in this
I was about
movie.
to say, Pedro Pascal was so good.
That's another thing where I respect that Pedro Pascal was like, Nick Cage is going to bring his A-game to this very silly movie. I'm not going to let him show me up. Pedro Pascal brings just as much energy as Nick Cage does, which is why they work so well together in this movie, is because both of them are committing to these silly roles, but they're selling them so well.
Like, Pedro Pascal plays like this billionaire who can, like, literally have anything that he wants, and that's how he gets Nick Cage. So, but they show the really, like, not sad side of it, but, like, the more human side to him, where it's like, he's still a guy who likes things, he has crushes, he has everything like this. It's just that when you get to know him, he's kind of got a bit of a shady side a bit.
He cried at Paddington 2.
Yes!
That is one of the best bits of early characterization that I can think of in a movie. It's like... This is a guy who we're led to believe is so scary and detached from the world, and he cries at Paddington 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I loved... The thing in the movie is that... I'm not going to get too much into it because it may delve into spoilers, but I really like how they played with the idea, is Javi actually a good guy?
Yeah.
Because that's what I mean, that's my favorite writing stuff in the movie, where it was like, even though they've been shown all this information about how he's not a good person, you still get to see, like, the good side of him, and you're like, I don't buy it. And that's due to the writing and also the performance that Pedro Pascal is playing, because you see both sides of him.
Yeah. Like, there's this scene where they're on a balcony ski shooting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where, like, Pedro Pascal brings it in that scene. Yeah.
And to a point in this movie, I was like, I have no idea how this movie's going to go.
Yeah, I really thought, is this going to be the movie about Nick Cage dying and then he retires in real life? Like, how fucked up would that have been?
That would have been fucked up. Spoilers, that's not what happens.
Nick Cage survives to the end of the movie.
Yeah, okay, but...
What, is that a spoiler?
I don't know. Because I'm like,
I don't think it's that much of a spoiler.
Well, I'll say this. I genuinely think Josh here liked the movie more than I did.
I did, and I think that is because I am a writer and this is a writer's movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I also write,
yeah,
but I'm also good at directing, editing, and I thought, like, the directing and writing was so good, and then, to me, the third act really went downhill for me.
Yes, but I think when we agreed on this when we were talking about it right after we walked out of the theater, the third act, if you divide it into the three things that happen in it, it's really only the middle part of it that is bad.
Yeah. I don't know. There was just a lot about the third act that I didn't like. Like, a lot of reveals happen that are just like, here, I'm going to tell you who's really behind everything. I'm going to tell you what's going on here. And then, I don't know, just because it kind of divulges into just another action movie, that's kind of what it became for me. It was just like, just another action movie, but like compared to like other Nicolas Cage movies,
yeah,
the action was just like not really bringing it. But this is not meant to be like, it is an action comedy. It's just not meant to like the comedy is at the forefront and the action's kind of taking a step back.
Right, and
but
I mean, there's
it's still a step back.
There is this joke in the movie about. It's going to be hard to say without spoiling. There is a joke in the movie where they frequently refer to a film as being a character study that has to devolve into an action movie to get audiences in the theater. And it does feel like they sort of go in that direction towards the end. But even being aware of it doesn't stop it from unironically doing that.
Yeah. It's kind of like just saying, oh yeah, I'm going to do something horrible, but you still do something horrible.
Right.
Like, just because you say you're going to do it doesn't make it, like, any better or worse.
Right. A good example of this is the game My Friend Pedro, which is a 2D action game.
Okay.
They do a joke where there's a level in the sewers, and they're like, wow, it's really fucked up that all these games have levels in sewers, and then they make you do a really long level in a sewer.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you can't get away with satirizing something if you're then going to straight-facedly do it.
Yeah, that's exact. That was my problem, where it's just like, okay, just because you're saying this isn't good and you're doing this just because it's a marketing thing. Because, like, I'm also thinking about other Nicolas Cage action movies where the action is genuinely good. Like,
yeah.
I mean, even in the movie, like, they say Face Off, Con Air.
Even Mom and Dad is fascinating.
The action in that is at least... I remember the action in Mom and Dad, and a little bit in Willys Wonderland too. I remember those scenes.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like like your standard, like, hey, let's just put the camera here. Car comes by. Okay, camera here. Fast editing.
I will say,
not my thing.
The one part of the action that I did like was the kiss, where the music swells right before they start shooting.
Okay, that was genuinely funny. I actually like that point.
That part was great, because it feels so, like...
earned.
Yeah, it feels earned, and it feels so, like, classic Hollywood. Music swells on a big action kiss. Mm-hmm. It shit fucking rules.
Yeah, I will say, even though I didn't like the third act, I did like the ending of the movie. I thought it wrapped up in a pretty clever way.
Yeah.
Where I was
and
just
I mean, we agreed
fine.
The beginning of the third act where they go to the place is also very good.
Yes.
So it's literally just that middle part of the third act.
Yeah,
it's bookended by really fantastic portions.
Mm-hmm.
But
but that third act is just something that, like, if it were a bit stronger and, like, if they like really committed to like good action or like really committed to like really good writing, then I would have been like,
well, I think
love this movie.
The writing is really strong in the third act still. It's just that they lean on it more. The part of what makes the first two acts so good is that they are exceptionally well written. It's just that the movie doesn't rely on that to be good. It's also visually stunning. Mm-hmm. It does all of these creative things. And then the third act is like, we're still going to be really well written, but that's kind of all you're getting.
Yeah,
and like that works for me as someone who is 90% there for the writing and acting. Mm-hmm. And for someone who's more invested in the like cinema of it all, like the cinematography, the like all of the actual movie making parts of it, which are, you know, notably not the thing that I am corely invested in. Mm-hmm. I can understand being like, yeah, this wasn't as good.
I don't know, just like stuff like action is a visual spectacle.
Right.
Like it could be really well written action, but it's still like it's not dialogue based, it's based off movement and everything like that, and just I don't know, it was just like cars chasing each other, couple guns getting fired.
Yeah.
Nothing. There was one genuinely funny bit with backing into someone.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty clever because I was like, you just back into them, and they did.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. I do. Yeah. So there's like things in this movie where I was just like, okay, that's not my favorite, and it kind of brought the movie down. Well, not by much. It's still like a movie that I would say, one, if you're a Nicolas Cage fan, definitely go see it. Two, if you're just a fan of like if you just want to see like a good fun movie, I highly recommend this. Some of the jokes may be a bit out of some people's wheelhouse.
Yeah, again, all of the jokes that are about like narrative structuring, of which there are many, may come off a little dense for people. I compared it to Jim Jarmusch earlier, which I do stand by. It's kind of in a similar vein to what he did with The Dead Don't Die.
Also, there's a lot of like technical things about like Hollywood that are like don't really get talked about in the movie. So it's just like if you're interested in that kind of stuff, like I am, this is a movie for you. It's a hard movie to hate.
Yes. And I will say there are jokes, like you said, that might just go over some people's heads. For example, and I'm going to do my best to not spoil this because it had me laughing out loud in the theater, there is a shot at the very end that parodies a specific director in a way that you may not notice unless you are especially familiar with that director, but if you are, it is so fucking funny.
Yeah, I laughed my ass off because I was just like, oh my god. I was just like, they actually did it. Like,
well, yeah, because I mean, I don't want to say, but I think that director famously worked with Nicolas Cage on a particular movie, and so the fact that that's how they end it.
I was just like, ooh, I don't know how. Yeah, I was just like, that's a good like jab.
Yeah.
At someone. I was just like, that's pretty fucking funny.
Yeah.
I really liked that. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll say this, like, besides our two main leads, all the supporting cast just brings... They're there. Like, Nicolas Cage's wife and daughter, they were good.
Tiffany Haddish is funny, as she usually is.
Yeah, Tiffany Haddish is funny. I know Ike Barinholtz had a good line. Yeah, there's not much I could say without, like, spoiling anything. I don't really think... I would rather... There's not much to spoil anyway. For how well written it is, the story isn't, like, grand or huge.
It's not overly complicated.
It's not overly complicated. It is very much a simple story with a great premise with really good character writing.
Yeah. It definitely, if you, like me, are a particularly strong fan of dialogue and sort of hate what certain large-scale comic book movies have done to dialogue in movies, looking at you, Joss Whedon, then you may find a very, very strong enjoyment of the way this movie is written.
Yeah. It's cynical in all the right ways.
It is cynical, but at the end of it, I think there is hope.
Yeah.
Right? It's like everyone kind of gets a happy ending. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like, oh, everything is terrible, Hollywood is killing us.
Yeah, no, it's not, even though they do have a really funny reference to how Hollywood is today, with talking about like, oh, the movies are either this or that.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay, yeah, I understand that, but what I really liked is just the upfrontness about this movie, where it's just like, yeah, we understand how Hollywood is, but we still love it.
Yeah.
Like, we still love the movies, we still genuinely, even the end of this movie shows, like, the love of, like, the different kinds of love that you can have for film, either it being with family or with a crowd.
Yeah. And I loved... So, like, and I was talking to Max about this in the theater, but, like, there is a kind of movie. Your La La Lands. Your Once Upon a Time in Hollywoods.
Mm-hmm.
You're these movies that pitch themselves as being a love letter to Hollywood, that are really, like, a love letter to, like, cinema from the 1970s.
Or 60s.
Or 60s. Right? Like...
Or, like, those old musicals, like, White Christmas or Singing in the Rain, where it's just like they don't make them like they used to.
Yeah, it's that. It's that they don't make them like they used to.
Which I'm sick of, because there's a reason why we don't make them like we used to.
Yes,
because
and that's why I love movies that are a little bit anti-Hollywood. Like, I loved Birdman because I really loved the parts of Birdman that were kind of poking fun at, like, yeah, they don't make them like they used to because it doesn't make money anymore.
Exactly.
And what I love about this is that it's a love letter to cinema as it exists today.
Yes.
It's a love letter to bad movies and good movies.
Yeah, because Nicolas Cage has such a variety of good to bad movies. It is the perfect, like, vessel for this movie.
100%. And I understand, like, this movie, when it was in the Black Book, was rated as being the best script in it. And I totally understand why.
I could see it now.
Yeah. Because, again, I went into this thinking, oh, is it just going to be, it's funny because Nick Cage is in it? No. This movie has such an identity of its own beyond just being Nick Cage.
Because honestly, if it was just Nick Cage doing his standard things and just this really basic plot, I would have been like, this movie's not good, because it's literally just Nick Cage screaming, yelling, doing all that.
Yeah.
But in this movie, he there's not like a major freak out.
Yeah.
Like, there's no vampire's kiss moment in this movie, or like, not the beast.
Yeah.
Not the beast.
Although they do a joke.
They
about
do
that.
do a joke, which I appreciated.
But they also, it's that it's not a movie about Nick Cage. It's Nick Cage elevating what was already a fantastic foundation.
Yes. I could see why he genuinely was like, oh, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And you guys can make fun of me.
Yeah. And he makes fun of himself. I mean, again, there is a whole sequence where he makes out with a younger version of himself in a restaurant, which is one of the, like, up there with the last movie that I was here talking about, Everything Everywhere, as being like, I don't know what the fuck I'm watching, but it's brilliant.
Yeah, I was just like, this is so weird, but I love it.
Yeah, and I mean, the effects they got to do young Nick Cage in this movie looked great.
I was like, I know that's not real, but damn, they did a good job.
It's that fucking Irishman tech at work.
No, have you? I think it's more like the Star Wars tech, because recently in Book of Boba Fett they did a really good Luke Skywalker. But, like, I was genuinely surprised how well they did the young Nick Cage. And it's not a spoiler, he's in the trailer.
Yeah.
But there's this version of Nick Cage called Nicky Cage.
Yeah.
Where he is the hyper, like, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Kind of Nick Cage.
Nicolas fucking woo Cage.
Yeah, and which is actually based off a interview that he did in the 90s. The look and everything is based off an interview where he just, like, flipped out and kicked, like, a bunch of couches.
That's fantastic.
So it was a genuine, let's point that out. But the special effects there, for this being a movie that probably had a significantly low budget, the visual effects on that were perfect.
Yeah, no, this was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent movie. If you like good movies, if you like bad movies, if you like Nick Cage movies,
which are both,
yes, then you will find something that you will probably really enjoy about this.
Yeah, I agree. Like, my problems, I mean, I still enjoyed it. I just don't think that this is like this is a great movie. I think it's like a really good movie with like a solid premise and an executed very well. Just the third act didn't work for me.
That's fair. I think for me, and my general opinions on cinema, something that I value, I fucking sound like a douchebag, but like, with like cinema. But no, something I like in movies is when a movie genuinely gets to the point of being very, very good in a genre that isn't typically like a awards genre. Like, I value an exceptionally good comedy way higher than I value a really good drama.
You know what? I agree. I agree with that.
And that's why this movie blew me away, because I was like, this is an action comedy that is fucking fantastic. And even if the third act has some issues, it didn't bother me as much as it bothered you, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a movie where I was like, no, this elevated way past where I thought it would be, and I think that makes it deserving of praise.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. This movie's not going to win any Oscars.
It absolutely will not, but like...
Honestly, if it were to win anything...
Yeah?
I would have to either give it like a Best Supporting Actor to
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal.
That's totally what I was thinking.
Like,
Best Supporting Actor to Pedro Pascal,
like,
100%.
Because even though Nick Cage is great as the main character, but Pedro just fucking
stole the
show. Like, they both steal every scene that they're in.
Yes.
Since they're both in every scene. I don't know. I'm now thinking about this movie. I'm like, this was fun. This is just a fun movie.
It was a fun movie, and it was a smart movie, and it was a dumb movie at times.
Smart about dumb stuff and dumb about smart stuff.
Exactly.
That's what I love.
Yeah.
All right. I think we can wrap this up.
Yep. Watch this movie. Mm-hmm. And also, because I mentioned it, watch The Dead Don't Die by Jim Jarmusch, because that is also a good movie.
Watch more Nicolas Cage movies.
Watch more Nicolas Cage movies. Wait, can we throw out Nicolas Cage movies to watch as the end of this review?
You know what? Why not?
Because I think the viewers at home need to know about Mom and Dad. It flew under the radar.
All right, then I'll talk about mine, because it's genuinely better than that.
Mom and Dad is a movie that you all should watch. Is it a good movie? Well, that's hard to say. Because it's shot in a way that I know Max hates, that I think is... it's at least visually interesting. But what it is it is a vehicle for Nick Cage to deliver one of the most comedy unhinged performances of his career. There are some where he's more dramatically unhinged. This is him trying to be funny, which is not always when he's at his most unhinged.
I see what you mean. It's just that the way it's shot and edited,
but I think we've already established that doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I could see why it wouldn't bother you, but like that just gave me a headache.
That is fair.
Where I was just like, this is just not fun.
I watched it with friends while drinking, like, sodas in my friend's basement.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, like, we were chilling out, we watched Mom and Dad. There is a scene where Nicolas Cage destroys a pool table with a sledgehammer while singing the Hokey Pokey, and it is one of the most magnetic things I have seen him do.
Yeah.
The man brought his all to what is basically R-rated Home Alone.
Yeah, it really is, and I will say there is a line that he says that I still say to this day,
which is
the sawzall saws all, because I use sawzalls to help trim stuff, and I whenever I have it, I'm just like, yep, he's not wrong.
The one that I always think of is his fucking rendition of the Hokey Pokey.
Yeah.
Oh, you put your left foot in, you put your left foot out, you do the Hokey Pokey, and you fuck.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It is so over the top and fun, and it's probably not a good movie by any conventional standards, but if you want to watch something stupid as hell and turn your brain off and get something fun and funny, Mom and Dad is one of the better movies you can watch.
Okay. Yeah, that was Josh's pick. I'm going to say for my favorite Nicolas Cage movie as of recently, Mandy. I fucking love Mandy. What Mandy is about Nicolas Cage and his wife/girlfriend Mandy are living in a log cabin outside from society, just by themselves, and they loving relationship. And then one day, a cult drives in through town. Sad to say, Mandy dies, and Nicolas Cage's Red goes on a revenge to stop them and take them down. However, basic plot, execution-wise, this movie is a trip. Like, it has very synthetic, slow-moving. It really, like, makes you feel, like, the anger and, like, frustration that this guy is going through in Nicolas Cage's face. There's literally a scene, you want to talk about a freak-out scene? There's literally a scene where he's all bloodied up in his underwear with a bottle of, like, I don't know, bourbon or whatever, and he's just flipping out in his, like, he just going, just in this bathroom, and you're like, I get it, man, because it's just like, he's that feeling of like I'm so angry, it just turns it into like this thing that he didn't want to be. And yeah, the movie has so much style. There's literally bikers from hell that show up, like they literally drink acid And I'm not talking about like the corrosive stuff. I'm talking about that shit that makes you see colors.
Right, like in this movie.
Yeah, like in Mandy, it's a colorful film. And it's very much, what I mean by it feels like a trip, it really feels like I watched this sober, and I felt high. Like, there were some moments I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. But then they have really cool moments of, like, there's a chainsaw fight. There's a legit cool kill with, like, this really cool silver axe. And just seeing Nicolas Cage, like, go into this really trippy, weird state at the end where it's just like he basically becomes no better than this cult.
Yeah.
By the way, the performances of the main cult leader, genuinely freaky weird.
Yeah, I love that shit.
Yeah, it is a weird film. It's not for everybody. It's not a film that like you could easily put on and watch over and over. You need to be in a mood to watch Mandy.
Right, I think that's the flip here. Is Mom and Dad, I think, is a dumb movie that you can watch with friends. Mm-hmm. Mandy is like will fuck you up.
Mm-hmm. It'd be a fun movie to watch with friends because there are genuinely like cheerable moments.
Right.
It's just more like this is more like the puff puff pass kind of friendship you want to be, where it's just like, hey, let's just drink a bit.
Let's get toasted and watch a weird movie.
All right. But yeah, that was my recommendation. I love Mandy. Okay, Josh has one more he wants to talk about.
So there's this movie called Pig that was released in 2021. It is a movie about Nicolas Cage living in the woods, as many of these movies are.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But Nick Cage has a pig that sniffs for truffles. And one day, it gets taken. And that is all that I'm going to say about the premise of the movie Pig. It is one of the most beautiful drama movies that I have watched in so long. I cried at this movie. Like, genuine tears.
Okay.
Pig is such a beautiful reflection on being old and losing things.
Oh.
And...
okay.
And
what a sad note to end on.
I know, but Pig is like, but it reaches this point at the end that a more studio movie, right, like a high budget, more focus grouped movie could not have done. It reaches this point that is so emotionally complex and satisfying and real and affecting. Pig blew me the fuck away. Nice. Should have been last year's Best Picture.
I'll definitely check it out. I don't have another Nicolas Cage movie.
That's
maybe
totally fine.
If I want to say one that's just fun, but it's not a great movie, Willys Wonderland. I like the character that he plays because he definitely plays like a new horror movie protagonist, kind of like Ash Williams. But because it's Nicolas Cage, it is so funny to see the character that he brought to this movie. That's not a great movie. It's really cheap, but the action scenes are fun. It has some genuinely really cool moments, but Nicolas Cage is the only reason why I love that movie. Genuinely.
So what we've established is that Nick Cage is the best.
Yeah.
Watch the movies that he's in. Mm-hmm. If you are a person who is unfamiliar with, like, post-2009 Nick Cage, you are in for a treat.
Yeah.
If you want to
After 2000... Yeah, wow, what a date to put. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
Right, like, post-Ghost Rider, Nick Cage.
Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance is my guilty pleasure. I love that film, but it's horrible.
Good.
I think we're going to end this off. This has been another episode of $1 Million Media. Thank you, Josh. It was a genuine pleasure talking about the man, the myth, the Cage, Nicolas Cage. Please keep listening to Wave Radio, and also please like, subscribe, and share on my YouTube channel and this video, and goodbye.